Your daughter just opened the birthday gift she specifically asked for, looked at it for 3 seconds and said, "Is that all?" You felt it in your chest before you even had time to process the words. You spent 2 weeks finding that exact thing. Now picture a Japanese child receiving a single, small, wrapped package. She holds it with both hands, bows her head slightly, and says, "Arigatou gozaimasu," with a quiet sincerity that makes every adult in the room go still. No reminder from a parent whispering, "Say thank you." Just a child who genuinely means it. So what built that? And why does yours already want to know what comes next? Stay until the end of this video, because in the next few minutes, you'll see exactly how Japanese parents build this kind of genuine gratitude without a single lecture. It starts with a concept most Western parents have never been given a word for: kansha. It translates roughly as gratitude, but the Japanese version isn't the gratitude of relief or the gratitude of getting what you wanted. Kansha is the recognition that everything you have arrived through someone else's effort. The meal on the table came from a farmer, a truck driver, a cook, and a parent who stood at the stove. The shoes on your feet were made by someone's hands. Kansha isn't a feeling you wait to have. It's a practice you build into ordinary life until the feeling follows automatically. Compare that to how gratitude is typically handled in Western households. A child receives something, the parent prompts, "What do you say?" The child says, "Thank you." The transaction closes. This version of gratitude is real, and it isn't meaningless, but it's also almost entirely reactive, trained as a social courtesy attached to the moment of receiving, rather than a relationship with the invisible effort that made the thing possible in the first place. Here's the question worth sitting with. What if the reason your child asks, "Is that all?" isn't because they're ungrateful by nature, but because they've never been shown what the gift cost in anything other than money? Japanese families practice kansha in small, deliberate, repeated ways that have nothing to do with the size of what's being given. Before every meal, without exception, family members say, "Itadakimasu," which translates approximately as, "I humbly receive this," and it's directed not just at the food, but at the chain of effort that produced it. Before a child touches their chopsticks, they've already acknowledged that something was done for them. This isn't a religious ritual. It isn't a lecture. It's a 3-second daily practice that, over thousands of repetitions, builds a specific way of seeing ordinary things. This connects to research on gratitude conducted by psychologists Robert Emmons and Michael McCullough, whose landmark study found that people who were prompted to reflect on what they'd received, specifically on the effort behind it rather than the object itself, reported measurably higher levels of life satisfaction and were more likely to engage in generous behavior toward others. The children who benefit most from gratitude practices aren't the ones who say thank you the most often. They're the ones who understand, in a felt way, what thank you is actually for. Here's where it gets specific. In Japanese parenting, the concept of kansha is reinforced not through correction, but through narration. When a Japanese mother hands her child a bowl of rice, she might say quietly, almost to herself, "The farmer worked all year for this." Not as a guilt trip, not as a lesson, just as a fact, offered gently, the way you might point at a passing cloud and name it. Over years of this kind of narration, the child builds an internal map of the invisible world behind every object, every meal, every morning that gets put together for them. Compare this to what happens in most Western households when a child fails to express gratitude. The correction comes after the fact. "You didn't say thank you. Don't you think you should be grateful?" The conversation focuses on the child's behavior in the moment of receiving, not on what the received thing actually represents. This puts the child in a defensive position rather than a reflective one. The lesson becomes about manners, not about meaning. Here's the research that makes this concrete. A study published in the journal Social Development found that children who were regularly helped to understand the intentions and efforts behind gifts, not just the object given, showed significantly higher levels of empathetic understanding and pro-social behavior compared to children who received gratitude prompts focused only on saying thank you. The difference wasn't in how often they said the words, it was in whether they'd been helped to see the person behind the giving. This is the part that connects directly back to the child who asks, "Is that all?" A child who has only been prompted to say thank you learns that gratitude is what happens at the end of receiving. A child raised with kansha learns that gratitude is what opens the receiving. 2 weeks of searching for the right gift becomes visible to the second child, not because the parent made a speech about it, but because that child has spent years being quietly shown the effort behind ordinary things. The extraordinary doesn't need to announce itself when you can already see the invisible. So, what does this actually look like, practically, for you? It doesn't mean installing a new ritual, making your child bow before dinner, or explaining the agricultural system every time you serve vegetables. It means finding 1 or 2 moments each day to name the effort behind something ordinary, without making it a lesson. The person who made these shoes worked in a factory for 8 hours. Your teacher prepared this for 30 kids this morning. Not as a guilt trip, just as a fact. The way you'd point at a bird and name it. The hardest part isn't finding the moments. It's doing it consistently enough that it stops feeling like you're making a point and starts feeling like you're just describing the world accurately. That shift usually takes a few months of quiet, undramatic repetition. The child doesn't need to respond. They don't need to say anything. They just need to hear it again and again until it becomes part of how they see. The hardest part is resisting the urge to make the narration explicit, to turn it into a lesson your child is supposed to learn right now. Because the moment it feels like a lesson, it becomes something to sit through rather than something to absorb. That restraint is yours to practice, not theirs to inherit instantly. And every time you name the invisible effort behind something ordinary, without waiting for your child to acknowledge it, you're not teaching gratitude. You're building the conditions inside which gratitude becomes the only natural response. Because the real question was never about birthday gifts, or "Is that all?" or how to get a child to say thank you without being reminded. It was about whether your child has been given enough ordinary moments to discover, again and again, that the world is full of effort they didn't ask for and can't repay, and that noticing it, quietly, is one of the most important things a person can learn to do.